Have you ever been just walking along a riverbed or maybe a beach and you spot a smooth stone and without even really thinking about it, you just pick it up?
Yeah, you just naturally reach for it.
Right. You slip it into your pocket or maybe you just roll it around in your palm for like 10 minutes while you're walking. For you, our listener, the eternal learner, your brain naturally gravitated toward that physical anchor. It's a completely unconscious human habit.
It really is. We are tactile creatures.
But when we actually stop to think about picking up a rock from the ground, the expectation is usually one of simple, binary physical reality.
Exactly. It has a specific weight. It has a density.
Yeah, it's just a piece of the Earth's crust governed by basic engineering and physics, and, well, that's the end of the story.
Right. It is a geological object forged over millions of years of pressure and heat. I mean, it is as literal and objective as the physical world gets.
Right, a rock is a rock. It's clean, it's easily categorizable. But then you take that exact same stone and you step into the world of human consciousness. You introduce meditation and you introduce intention.
And suddenly that simple geological object becomes something else entirely.
Yes, we're looking at a landscape that is beautifully murky, where the lines between physical reality and psychological experience completely blur.
It is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters. You have the hard, measurable physical world colliding directly with the highly subjective, deeply personal world of the human mind.
It's wild.
It is. And trying to map where one ends and the other begins is, well, it's one of the most compelling challenges we face when looking at these practices.
And that is exactly our mission today. We have an extensive stack of source material sitting right here in front of us, representing a comprehensive guide on crystal meditations.
A very detailed guide.
Very. And the goal of this deep dive is to bridge that gap. We want to take these materials and extract the core of how a piece of the Earth's crust became a tool for navigating the human psyche.
Because it's not just about what people do with these stones.
No, we want to understand the mechanisms behind why they do it and how it actually works on a psychological and physiological level. Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can even begin to explore the mechanics of meditating with a crystal, we have to look at the foundational reality of what this object is literally from the ground up.
Starting from the literal ground is really the only logical place to begin. Because scientifically, crystals are not just any rocks.
They're special.
Very. They are formed through intense, highly specific geological processes over thousands, sometimes millions of years. What fundamentally separates a true crystal from, say, a generic piece of gravel is its atomic structure.
Okay, so if we zoom in, right.
At the microscopic level, crystals are structured in precise, incredibly uniform repeating patterns of atoms. It's a highly ordered geometric lattice.
So if you were to zoom in close enough, it looks like perfectly constructed molecular scaffolding.
Precisely. It is a three-dimensional grid that repeats infinitely within the structure of the stone. And in the realm of physics, this regular repeating lattice structure is highly significant.
Why is that?
Because the structure is so stable and regular, it causes the atoms within it to vibrate at very specific, incredibly stable frequencies. This brings us to the concept of resonance.
Resonance.
Yes. Resonance is the phenomenon where a material vibrates most naturally and effectively at its own specific frequency. And we aren't just talking about abstract or esoteric concepts here. Mainstream science focuses heavily on these exact material properties.
Because we rely on this exact property to run the modern world. I mean, looking at the research, quartz is ubiquitous in everyday technology.
It's everywhere.
It's in our watches, our computers, our communication devices, and it's used specifically because that precise atomic lattice is incredibly reliable at regulating energy frequencies.
If you introduce an electrical current to a piece of quartz, it acts as an objectively measurable, flawless regulator of that physical energy.
It's wild to think about.
What's fascinating here is that this is the undisputed empirical baseline. But then we encounter the metaphysical perspective, which is the entire foundation of the source material we are examining today.
Right, the shift from physics to philosophy.
Exactly. The metaphysical approach takes that objectively true concept of physical, stable frequency and applies it directly to the human energetic field.
So it scales it up.
It does. Spiritual traditions posit that different types of crystals, because they have entirely unique atomic lattices, emit completely unique vibrational frequencies. And these traditions suggest that these frequencies correspond directly to specific emotional, mental, or physical states in a human being.
To make that concrete, the sources point to amethyst. They suggest that the specific frequency of amethyst promotes a state of calmness and anxiety relief,
Right.
whereas the unique frequency of rose quartz corresponds to a soothing energy related to love and compassion.
Yes. And the theoretical bridge that connects the physical stone to the human emotional state is a principle known as entrainment.
Entrainment. Okay, break that down for us.
In physics, entrainment occurs when two oscillating bodies lock into phase so that they vibrate in harmony. Typically, the weaker or more chaotic energy field will naturally synchronize with the stronger, more stable frequency.
Okay, so is holding a crystal essentially like striking a tuning fork for the human mind?
That's a great way to put it.
Because you have a modern human brain, which is often a chaotic, stressed out, highly irregular energetic field, right? And you introduce this perfectly stable, geologically ancient tuning fork. The theory is that the chaotic mind slowly aligns itself to that stable baseline frequency.
That is exactly the mechanism being proposed. The crystal acts as the stable baseline, the anchor in the storm of the human nervous system. Now, we have to acknowledge what the source text itself explicitly admits.
Right, the caveat.
A big caveat. There's a distinct lack of direct mainstream scientific evidence for these specific healing effects. Empirical science does not currently validate the idea that the frequency of rose quartz can heal emotional trauma. It views these mood-balancing claims with a heavy dose of skepticism.
Hold on, I'm struggling with this. Okay, if the source material itself admits there is no mainstream empirical proof that these specific rocks emit frequencies that cure anxiety or heartbreak, does this entire practice simply boil down to a highly structured, elaborate placebo effect?
Wow.
I mean, are the crystals just pretty geological props, and the actual heavy lifting is entirely driven by our own internal psychology and personal intention?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of human psychology, framing it as just a placebo effect fundamentally misunderstands how profound the placebo effect actually is.
Oh, interesting.
In Western medicine, we often treat the placebo effect as a nuisance, right? A statistical anomaly to be filtered out of a drug trial.
Yeah, something to discard.
But what the placebo effect actually represents is the mind's astonishing ability to heal the body. The metaphysical approach detailed in these sources is fundamentally experiential. It relies heavily on the mind-body connection.
So it's not a trick?
No, in this context, intention and belief create a subjective reality where the placebo effect isn't a negative parlor trick or delusion. It is a powerful, highly effective, self-directed tool for well-being.
So, by choosing a stone, holding it, and focusing your mind on its stable physical structure, you are actively directing your own neurobiology toward healing and balance.
Yes.
The crystal isn't necessarily doing the work to you. It is the physical interface that allows you to do the work to yourself.
Exactly. It externalizes the internal work. It is the tangible interface between objective physical touch and subjective psychological intention. You are taking an abstract, overwhelming feeling like anxiety, and you're giving your brain a physical, localized object to process that feeling through.
That reframes the entire practice. If we view these crystals as conduits, whether you view that conduit as a literal conductor of vibrational energy or purely as a psychological anchor for mental weight, it logically follows that this hardware is going to require maintenance.
Definitely.
I mean, you wouldn't use a kitchen knife every day for a year without sharpening or cleaning it.
It's an issue of energetic hygiene. The premise is that if a tool absorbs or redirects energy, it can become stagnant or saturated. The baseline must be continually reset to ensure the tool remains effective.
And the source material dedicates a massive amount of real estate to an incredibly detailed setup process, broken down into cleansing, charging, and space making.
It's very thorough.
Let's look at cleansing first. We're not talking about soap and water to remove dirt. We're talking about removing stagnant energy.
Right. The methods provided are deeply rooted in elemental forces. The first method discussed is smudging, which involves using the smoke of burning herbs, typically sage or palo santo.
Right, very common in these practices.
Very. The practitioner holds the crystal in the thick, steady smoke, actively visualizing the smoke, enveloping the stone, and carrying away any dense or negative energy.
And crucially, the sources emphasize that this isn't a passive action. You don't just wave it through the smoke like you're checking a box.
No, not at all.
You are instructed to actively set an intention while doing it, repeating a phrase like, I cleanse this crystal of all negative energy. It demands active mental participation.
That active participation is key. It's what engages the mind. Now, the second elemental method involves water. The instruction is to hold the crystal under cool, running water, ideally a natural stream. but a faucet works.
A faucet is a bit more accessible for most of us.
True, the visualization here is the water physically washing away the energetic residue, returning it to the earth. However, this comes with a vital physical warning.
Oh, right, because these are actual geological specimens.
Exactly. Many of them are water-soluble or contain metals that will rust. Stones like selenite, which is a form of gypsum, or malachite, which contains copper, could be severely damaged or completely dissolved by water.
Which is a stark reminder that before these are magical tools, they are chemistry.
Literally.
So if you have a water-sensitive stone, the text suggests moving to the earth element using salt. You can bury the stone completely in a bowl of dry, coarse salt like Himalayan pink salt and leave it there for a full 24 hours. The salt is described as acting like a sponge, drawing out the stagnant energy.
But for highly delicate stones that might be scratched by salt or dissolved by water, the guide offers a fourth method: sound cleansing.
Sound.
Yeah, this involves using a singing bowl, a tuning fork, or even a resonant bell near the crystal. The theory is that the physical sound waves moving through the air will physically penetrate the atomic lattice of the crystal, shaking loose and dispersing any stagnant energy through pure physical vibration.
That's fascinating. And the final cleansing method relies on light, leaving the crystal bathed in moonlight overnight, which is described as a gentle, universally safe method.
Or placing it in direct sunlight for a few hours.
But again, the chemistry of the stone dictates the practice. The sources warn that prolonged exposure to strong UV sunlight will actually bleach and fade the physical color of stones like amethyst, fluorite, and rose quartz.
It will completely wash them out. Now, once the crystal has been put through one of these elemental cleansing processes, it is considered an empty vessel. It has been wiped clean of residue, but it is effectively depleted.
Ah, so you have to refill it.
Exactly. The next required step is charging, which is the process of restoring the crystal's natural, vibrant energy.
And the charging methods basically mirror the cleansing ones. You use the elements to refill the battery,
Right.
placing it under a full moon, giving it a brief sun bath, or physically burying it back into the soil of the earth for a day to allow it to reconnect with the planet's grounding energy.
Or for a purely psychological approach, holding it in your hands in a quiet room and using intense mental visualization, picturing a brilliant, energizing light pouring into the crystal.
Wait, if the mind is highly susceptible to physical cues like the weight of a stone, wouldn't all of this manual labor, the washing, the burying, the tracking of the lunar cycle, wouldn't that actually be the mechanism that prepares the mind for meditation?
This raises an important question about the psychology of ritual. From a purely mechanistic viewpoint, one might wonder if burying a rock in a bowl of salt actually does anything to the atomic lattice. But from a psychological and neurological viewpoint, the act of cleansing and charging is profoundly effective.
So cleansing and charging your crystal is basically like clearing the cache on your web browser and then plugging your phone into the wall.
That's a great modern analogy. When a person takes 10 minutes to carefully wash a stone, or specifically curates a time to sit under the full moon to set an intention, they are engaging in a highly structured ritual.
They are building an on-ramp for their own consciousness.
Exactly. Rituals are incredibly powerful signals to the human nervous system. By engaging in these slow, deliberate physical actions, the practitioner is forcing their brain to break out of the chaotic loop of daily life.
You're switching gears.
You are literally telling your autonomic nervous system that it is time to transition from a sympathetic state of stress and vigilance to a parasympathetic state of rest, digestion, and focused intention. The physical maintenance of the crystal is, in reality, the psychological maintenance of the practitioner's own mindset.
Okay, if the ritual of preparing the tool is that vital for signaling the nervous system, it stands to reason that the environment where the meditation actually takes place is equally critical. I mean, you can't expect to achieve deep somatic awareness while sitting on a pile of unfolded laundry with the television blaring in the next room.
No, the environment absolutely dictates the depth of the experience, and the source text does not treat the physical space as an afterthought. It provides a meticulous 8-step process for creating a sacred meditation space.
8 steps. Okay, what's step 1?
Step 1 is fundamental: choosing the location. It must be a dedicated spot with minimal foot traffic where the practitioner feels entirely safe and immune from sudden interruption.
Makes sense. Step 2 is an energetic and physical cleanup. The text emphasizes removing all clutter. It operates on the psychological principle that a cluttered physical room inevitably leads to a cluttered, distracted mind.
Absolutely true.
Once the physical trash is gone, you use incense or sound to clear the stagnant air of the room, preparing a blank canvas.
Then step 3 involves setting an intention specifically for the space itself, not just the meditation.
Like an intention just for the room.
Yes. Establishing a clear purpose for this corner of the room, perhaps writing down a specific mantra, and placing it where it is immediately visible upon entering.
Oh, I see.
Step 4 addresses pure physical ergonomics, the furnishings.
This is crucial. The text suggests investing in a proper Zafu meditation cushion or a thick, supportive mat. Because if your knees are screaming in pain after 5 minutes, your brain is never going to achieve a meditative state. It will be entirely focused on the physical distress signals coming from your joints.
Exactly. Step 5 moves into ambience, which is where we see a masterclass in sensory curation. The guide advises using soft, warm, indirect lighting to reduce visual strain.
No harsh overhead fluorescence.
Never. It suggests incorporating auditory cues like calming nature sounds, the white noise of a small water fountain, and introducing aromatherapy, specifically scents like lavender or frankincense, to engage the olfactory system.
Then step 6 is bringing the outside in. Introducing natural elements. This is where you place your specific crystals intentionally around the space, but also bring in potted plants, branches, or flowers.
It's about introducing a sense of living, breathing growth into a static room.
Right, and step 7 is about personalization. Creating a focal point, often an altar, and placing highly meaningful personal objects on it. This could be photographs of loved ones, sacred geometry symbols, or personal journals.
The goal is to curate a visual landscape that immediately triggers a physiological response of gratitude and safety the moment the eyes rest upon it.
That sounds incredibly grounding. And the final step, step 8, is establishing a daily ritual to reinforce the sanctity of the space.
It is the commitment to consistently return to this specific spot, thereby training the brain to automatically begin lowering cortisol levels the moment you sit down on that specific cushion.
If you analyze those 8 steps collectively, it is a comprehensive manipulation of the human sensory experience. Every single sense, sight, smell, touch, hearing, is being intentionally managed to orchestrate a shift in consciousness.
It's behavioral conditioning at its finest.
Okay, so the groundwork is completely laid. Our tools are physically and energetically cleansed. Our personal battery is charged. Our environment is meticulously curated to lower our heart rate.
We are ready to begin.
Exactly. Now we have to explore the literal physical mechanics of how a practitioner actually interfaces with this stone once they are sitting on the cushion. The text draws a very deliberate functional distinction between holding a crystal in the hand versus placing a crystal directly on the body.
Yes, the interaction changes depending on the goal. Holding a crystal in the palm of your hand gives the practitioner a direct, tangible connection.
It's very accessible.
It is. The literal physical weight of the stone in the hand acts as a grounding anchor for wandering attention. Furthermore, it is a highly portable practice. You can hold a stone while sitting in formal meditation, but you can also hold it in your pocket while walking or during a stressful meeting.
But then there is the practice of lying down and placing the crystal directly on specific areas of the body. The text describes this as targeted energy work, directing the stone's properties to specific physical coordinates, which is described as deeply soothing during deep relaxation or yoga nidra.
Yes, the body placement is a much more intensive practice.
But I want to dig into the mechanism here. When placing a heavy stone on the chest or the stomach, does the direct skin contact fundamentally change the meditative experience compared to just holding it loosely? Or is it purely a matter of where we are directing our mental spotlight?
It is a profound combination of both, heavily reliant on neurobiology. The direct skin contact provides massive amounts of sensory feedback to the brain. When you lie down and place a stone on your sternum, your nervous system immediately registers several data points. It registers the localized pressure or weight of the object. It registers the initial cool temperature of the geological specimen against the skin.
Oh, because it starts out cold.
Right. And then, over the next several minutes, it registers the gradual warming of the stone as it slowly absorbs and matches the practitioner's body heat.
So it's a dynamic physical sensation, not a static one.
Precisely. And that evolving physical sensation acts as a massive somatic anchor. The human mind naturally wants to wander into the past or the future, but the localized pressure on the chest demands the brain's attention in the present physical moment.
It pulls you right back.
It translates an abstract mental intention like "I want to heal my heart" into a tangible, heavy physical reality resting right on top of the lungs. It literally forces you to become aware of the rise and fall of your own breath against the weight of the stone.
That bridges the gap perfectly. The esoteric concept becomes a mechanical reality. And to maximize that somatic connection, the source material provides a highly structured framework for guided visualization.
It does. It outlines a 4-part mental journey to take while interacting with the stone.
The first step is grounding. Interestingly, before you even bring your conscious attention to the crystal itself, you must stabilize your own foundation.
The practitioner closes their eyes and visualizes thick, heavy roots extending down from the base of their spine, breaking through the floorboards and driving deep into the core of the earth.
It is a psychological exercise in establishing absolute stability.
Then comes the second phase, connecting. This is where you direct your full attention to the crystal you are holding or wearing. You visualize the energy of the stone as a vibrant, glowing light.
And the text offers a very specific, brilliant detail here. You are instructed to imagine the crystal's energy not just as a static glow, but as a gentle, pulsating rhythm that slowly adjusts until it perfectly matches the rhythm of your own heartbeat.
I love that detail. Once that synchronization is visualized, you move into the third phase, the journey. This is the core of the meditation.
Where you go in your mind.
Yes. You construct a deeply detailed, safe, mental landscape in your mind's eye. Perhaps a quiet, walled garden, or an isolated, serene beach. Within this visualization, the crystal ceases to be a rock in your hand and becomes a monumental, integral part of the mental landscape.
Like it becomes a physical structure in your imagination.
Exactly. It might manifest as a glowing pathway you walk upon, or a radiant fountain you drink from. You actively interact with the essence of the stone within your subconscious.
And the final phase is integration. After spending time in that mental landscape, you visualize your body absorbing that radiant light, watching it dissolve any stagnant, dark energy hidden within your physical form.
You remain quiet and open, allowing any intuitive thoughts or emotional messages from your subconscious to rise to the surface.
Finally, you slowly bring your awareness back to the weight of the stone, the sound of the room, and express a genuine moment of gratitude before opening your eyes.
If we look closely at the structure of that 4-part visualization, it is not just poetry. It is a calculated psychological technique designed to completely bypass the analytical, anxious narrating part of the brain, the default mode network.
You're hacking the brain.
Basically, yes. By occupying the mind with intensely detailed imagery and physical sensations, you slip past the brain's defensive barriers and tap directly into the deeper subconscious, using the crystal as the tactile key to unlock that door.
It's an incredibly elegant system, and since we were just discussing the profound effects of placing stones directly on the physical body, the text naturally progresses into providing a comprehensive map of exactly where to place them to achieve specific results.
This is where it gets very systematic.
Yeah, it utilizes the ancient framework of the chakra system.
The chakra system is a profound architectural concept rooted in ancient Indian spiritual traditions. It conceptualizes the human energetic body as having 7 major energy centers aligned vertically along the spine, starting from the very base and ascending all the way to the crown of the head.
And they each have different functions.
Right. Each of these 7 centers governs specific physical regions of the body, as well as specific emotional and spiritual aspects of the human experience. Furthermore, each center corresponds to specific colors and, consequently, specific types of crystals.
The sources map this out meticulously. Rather than speed reading through all 7, let's look at how this system actually functions as a tool for moving human attention, starting from the ground up.
Let's do it.
The foundation is the root chakra, the Muladhara. It is located at the very base of the spine, at the tailbone. Its associated color is a deep, vibrant red, and its entire psychological focus is on foundational stability, physical grounding, and basic human survival instincts.
When a practitioner feels completely unmoored, panicked, or deeply insecure in their physical life, their attention is frantic.
It's all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by placing a heavy red or black stone like hematite or red jasper near the base of the spine or between the feet and repeating an affirmation like, I am safe, grounded, and secure, they are forcefully drawing their frantic energy downward.
Bringing it back to the earth.
They are neurologically reminding their body that the ground is solid beneath them.
Now, contrast that deep, primal survival instinct with what happens when we move our attention up the map to the center of the chest, the heart chakra, the anahata. Its associated colors are soft green or pale pink. Unsurprisingly, this is the energetic center governing love, profound compassion, and deep emotional connection to others.
The physiology here is incredibly telling. When human beings experience heartbreak, grief, or severe emotional trauma, we physically contract.
We curl up.
We slouch our shoulders forward, we tighten our intercostal muscles, and we physically protect the chest cavity. Breathing becomes shallow.
It's a literal defense mechanism.
Exactly. By lying flat and placing a smooth, cool rose quartz directly on the sternum, you are bringing localized physical awareness to that area of tightness. The weight of the stone resting on the chest visually and physically prompts the practitioner to expand their lungs, take a deep breath, and physically open their posture.
And the affirmation here is, I give and receive love freely and unconditionally.
Yes. The physical opening of the chest facilitates the emotional release of forgiveness.
We see a totally different mechanism when we move up to the head. The third eye chakra, the ajna, is located perfectly in the center of the forehead, slightly above the space between the eyebrows. Its color is a deep, rich indigo.
And this center governs intuition, sudden insight, and inner wisdom.
So placing a stone here, like lapis lazuli, targets a highly sensitive area filled with nerve endings.
The localized pressure on the forehead is profoundly relaxing to the muscles that control facial tension and squinting muscles that are constantly engaged when we are stressed or overthinking.
We hold so much tension there.
We do. And the affirmation is, I trust my intuition and inner wisdom. By relaxing the physical muscles of the forehead, the mind is encouraged to stop straining for answers and instead allow intuitive thoughts to arise naturally.
Finally, the system culminates at the very top of the head with the crown chakra, the Sahasrara. Its colors are violet or pure, radiant white. This center is entirely focused on spirituality, higher consciousness, and a feeling of connection to the universe at large. The affirmation is, I'm connected to the divine and the universe.
It's the apex of the system.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If we look at this entire vertical map, from the tailbone to the crown of the head, what is actually happening here? Is it magic energy wheel spinning in the body, or is it something more structural? I mean, if the human body is a complex soundboard, the chakras are the EQ knobs, and placing a specific crystal on them is like isolating a single track to tune it perfectly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, regardless of one's belief in esoteric energy wheels, moving your focused, conscious attention sequentially from the base of your spine up through your abdomen, into your chest, through your throat, and finally into the top of your head is a highly effective, scientifically recognized physiological tool.
It's a real technique.
It is, in clinical terms, a structured somatic body scan. By associating specific colors, emotionally resonant affirmations, and the tactile physical presence of stones with these specific body parts, the ancient system is promoting incredibly deep somatic awareness.
It forces the hyperactive brain to pause and systematically check in with every single major nerve center and emotional reservoir in the physical body, ensuring nothing is ignored or repressed.
Exactly.
That is a staggering realization. It's an ancient psychological diagnostic tool. So once a practitioner has mastered this baseline, placing a single crystal on a single chakra point to assess their emotional state, the source guide transitions into advanced techniques.
Yes, the training wheels come off.
This involves combining multiple crystals and active physiological processes, specifically deliberate breath work, to exponentially amplify the effect.
This brings us to the complex practice of crystal grids. A crystal grid is essentially a geometric arrangement of multiple stones, placed in a highly specific, symmetrical pattern. It usually involves a central master crystal as a primary focal point, surrounded by a structured array of supporting stones.
The text details choosing specific geometric shapes based on the goal. A circle for unity and protection, a triangle for balance and manifestation, or incredibly complex mandalas for deep spiritual work.
You place the master crystal, like a large clear quartz point, directly in the center. Then, supporting stones, perhaps rose quartz for emotional healing or amethyst for anxiety reduction, are meticulously arranged around it.
Finally, the practitioner activates the grid by visualizing a flow of energy connecting them all, sometimes tracing the invisible lines of geometry between the stones with a physical pendulum or a quartz wand.
And as the grid is activated, the practitioner integrates complex, structured breathwork. They synchronize the rhythm of their breathing with the visual geometry of the grid.
The breathwork is the engine that drives the practice.
Completely. The practitioner visualizes drawing the combined light and energy of the entire crystal grid into their body on a slow, deliberate inhale. They hold that breath, allowing the energy to permeate their system, and then release all stagnant, negative physical and emotional tension on a long, controlled exhale.
And the text recommends highly structured rhythmic breathing, right? Such as inhaling for a strict count of 4, pausing for a count of 4, and exhaling for a count of 4.
Yes, very regimented.
They're essentially layering energies. A grid might combine clear quartz for raw amplification, amethyst for soothing calm, and black tourmaline around the perimeter for psychological protection. All of these are working together while the lungs keep time.
It's a symphony of intentionality.
But I have to stop and look at the mechanics of this. When we start meticulously arranging small stones into perfectly symmetrical geometric mandalas on the floor, and we are tracing invisible lines between them with a wand, what is actually happening?
A fair question.
Does placing a rock in a triangle fundamentally alter the physics of the energy in the room? Or is the construction of this complex grid essentially just cognitive scaffolding?
Yeah.
Is it a highly intricate visual and physical task designed solely to keep our hyperactive, problem-solving modern brains so intensely occupied that our deeper subconscious can finally relax?
That is a phenomenal way to dissect it. From the strict metaphysical standpoint, practitioners hold that sacred geometry, these specific shapes and patterns, symbolizes universal order, and that arranging stones in these shapes actually directs and magnifies the flow of subtle energy.
But from a psychological standpoint,
From a psychological and neurobiological standpoint, the concept of cognitive scaffolding is incredibly accurate. Creating a perfectly symmetrical, complex grid out of physical objects requires intense, sustained, unbroken mindfulness.
you have to pay attention.
You cannot build a complex mandala if you're scrolling on your phone or worrying about tomorrow's meeting. You have to be completely physically present. The very act of carefully placing each stone is an act of profound, sustained intention setting.
It's active meditation.
Exactly. The sacred geometry absolutely serves as a vital focus tool. Keeping the hyperactive, narrating brain busy with a demanding, sacred physical task is the exact core mechanism required to bypass anxiety and enter a flow state or a deep meditative trance. The setup itself is the meditation.
The ritual demands total presence, and presence is the goal. Okay, so we have established our advanced tools. We understand how to construct grids as cognitive scaffolding, and we understand how to use rhythmic breathwork as the physiological engine.
Now we get to apply these tools to highly specific, real-world problems.
Yes. The guide provides what is essentially a list of prescription crystals, tailoring specific stones to the exact psychological goals or struggles the practitioner might be facing.
The text organizes these prescriptions into 4 primary categories of human experience: stress relief, manifestation and abundance, emotional healing, and spiritual awakening.
Let's examine stress relief because it's the most universal entry point. The text highlights 2 major players. The first is blue lace agate.
A beautiful stone.
Visually, it features beautiful, incredibly soothing, light blue hues with delicate, wavy bands running through it. It is universally prescribed for emotional balance and specifically for calming a frantic, overactive mind. The second is amethyst, characterized by its deep, calming purple color, which is famous for easing severe anxiety and promoting deep physical relaxation.
If we shift the goal completely from calming the nervous system to actively building success, the category of manifestation and abundance, the prescriptions change entirely.
You want different energy.
To attract wealth and build momentum, the text prescribes citrine. It is known as the merchant stone. Visually, it radiates a bright, sunny, golden yellow energy that is said to foster deep optimism, creativity, and forward momentum.
You pair that golden citrine with pyrite. Pyrite is famously known as fool's gold because of its metallic, brassy, reflective surface.
Yes. Metaphysically, it is used as a shield against negative energy, but more importantly, to aggressively boost self-esteem, dispel crippling self-doubt, and empower the practitioner to pursue ambitious goals.
Then we navigate to emotional healing, dealing with the heavy burdens of heartbreak, profound grief, or deep-seated resentment. The ultimate prescription here is rose quartz. As we discussed with the heart chakra, it is a soft, translucent pink stone that promotes absolute unconditional love, profound self-compassion, and aids in the gentle release of past emotional trauma.
But if the emotional wound is more aggressive, if the practitioner is dealing with deep, burning anger, betrayal, or a desperate need to find forgiveness, the text pivots to rhodonite.
Rhodonite is fascinating.
It is called the stone of compassion,
Yeah.
but visually it is striking. It is a mix of soft, nurturing pink, violently contrasted with stark, jagged black veins. It is prescribed because the black veins offer severe grounding, while the pink helps release toxic resentment.
Finally, for those seeking spiritual awakening, expanded intuition, and a connection to higher consciousness, the guide directs them to lapis lazuli and selenite. Lapis lazuli is known as the stone of wisdom. It is an opaque, incredibly deep, cosmic blue stone that is often speckled with golden inclusions of pyrite, resembling a starry night sky.
It connects to the third eye, awakening inner vision, and absolute truth.
And selenite, conversely, is the stone of divine light. It is pure, radiant, translucent white, strongly connected to the crown chakra, and is utilized for clearing dense energy blockages and connecting to the highest levels of universal consciousness.
A very high-frequency stone.
Looking at this entire list, it operates exactly like a highly specific spiritual pharmacy. So what does this all mean? In Western medicine, you do not take a cherry-flavored cough drop when you have a sprained ankle. The tool doesn't match the trauma. In the same way, you wouldn't sit down on a meditation cushion holding bright, fiery, metallic pyrite when you're trying to gently heal a broken heart with rhodonite.
No, you wouldn't.
And you certainly wouldn't use the soft, calming energy of blue lace agate if you need the aggressive, metallic confidence to walk into a boardroom and launch a new business.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism. And if we dive into the evolutionary psychology behind this, it is entirely about the profound power of visual categorization and sensory cues.
Sensory cues are huge.
Human emotions like grief, ambition, or anxiety are incredibly complex, nebulous, and often overwhelmingly abstract. By pairing specific visual cues with these abstract feelings, we aid the brain's processing power.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Consider the evolutionary psychology of color. The human brain naturally associates the bright, sunny gold of citrine with daylight, warmth, growth, and energetic action. It associates the soft, pale blue of agate with calm waters and clear skies, triggering a parasympathetic relaxation response.
It's hardwired into us.
By selecting a specific stone, you are helping your brain categorize and process complex emotional challenges. You are taking an abstract, invisible, overwhelming feeling, and you are giving it a physical, colorful, heavy avatar that you can actually hold in your hand and look at.
It takes the intangible chaos of the mind and makes it completely tangible and manageable. But the text is clear that simply holding the right color rock once isn't enough to rewire the brain.
No, it takes repetition.
To make these specific emotional prescriptions actually take root and create lasting psychological change, the practitioner must weave them into a multisensory daily habit. This brings us to the section on sensory layering and habit building, which is designed to drastically enhance the depth of the practice.
Sitting in a quiet room, holding a stone, is powerful, but it only engages a fraction of the nervous system. The text strongly advocates for a holistic approach, actively incorporating sound healing and aromatherapy to engage the entire sensory apparatus.
They detail adding auditory layers. This means striking tuning forks, playing specific resonant frequencies on singing bowls, or utilizing high-quality continuous recorded soundscapes.
And simultaneously, you combine that auditory input with olfactory input using essential oils.
And the guide is highly specific here as well, mimicking the crystal pharmacy. You diffuse lavender oil when your goal is severe stress relief. You burn frankincense resin when your goal is deep grounding and ancient spiritual connection. And you utilize bright citrus oils like lemon or sweet orange when your goal is uplifting, expansive energy.
Beyond smell and sound, the text instructs the practitioner to layer in spoken affirmations. This is the practice of merging the vibrating spoken word with the crystal's physical energy. If you are sitting with an amethyst to combat a panic attack, you don't just sit silently and hope the rock makes you feel calm.
Right.
You actively engage your vocal cords and state out loud, "I am calm and centered."
The text outlines 3 strict rules for these affirmations. First, they must be entirely positive. You state what you want, not what you fear. Second, they must be in the present tense. You do not say, "I will be less stressed tomorrow," because the brain interprets that as a future problem.
You say, "I release stress and welcome calm right now."
And third, they must be highly specific to the emotional goal.
And to anchor all of this sensory and vocal work, the text insists on journaling. The practitioner is instructed to reflect in writing immediately after the meditation concludes.
They must track the clinical details, exactly which crystal was used, the specific duration of the session, what physical somatic sensations were observed, such as a tingling in the hands or a sudden feeling of warmth in the chest, and recording any sudden intuitive insights or memories that surfaced during the visualization.
It's a lot of data collection.
But I have to pause and look at this from a very practical, modern perspective. Let's think about the person listening to this right now. For our listener, the learner, who hates feeling overwhelmed by info overload, does adding singing bowls, essential oils, specific breathing counts, and journaling turn a relaxing meditation into an exhausting to-do list?
That is a highly critical point of friction, and it is vital to clarify the intent of the source material. These layers are presented as an entirely a la carte menu of options, absolutely not a mandatory checklist that must be completed for every single session.
Okay, that's a relief.
However, we must understand why the text suggests these layers in the first place. It comes back to the reality of the modern human brain. For the vast majority of people living in a high-stimulation digital world, sitting in pure, silent stillness with a rock is not relaxing. It is agonizing.
It really is. It's too quiet.
Silence creates a vacuum, and the anxious default mode network immediately rushes in to fill that vacuum with a spiral of intrusive thoughts, worries about the future, and regrets about the past.
So you have to give it something to do.
By strategically giving your nose a specific scent to track, giving your ears a continuous frequency to follow, giving your hands a physical texture to hold, and giving your lungs a specific rhythm to maintain, you are fully occupying the sensory processing centers of the brain. You are giving the anxious monkey mind just enough repetitive tasks to keep it completely occupied, which prevents it from wandering off into anxiety.
You are systematically tying up all the mental bandwidth so the deeper, quieter subconscious consciousness finally has room to breathe and emerge.
Precisely. It is about anchoring the practitioner in the extreme present moment, utilizing every available physical sense to enforce that presence much more effectively than pure silence ever could.
That reframes the entire process from a chore to a masterfully designed trap for anxiety. But of course, human nature is resilient, and despite having the perfect a la carte setup, the perfect geometric crystal grid, and the perfect lavender incense, sometimes the mind rebels.
It definitely happens.
The practice fails. We have to address the friction, which brings us to the final major concept: troubleshooting the static. What actually happens when a practitioner sits down, follows every rule, and it just flat out doesn't work?
The single most common point of frustration cited by practitioners is the experience of simply not feeling any energetic shift or connection to the crystal. They curate the space, they hold the stone, they breathe, and the stone just feels like a dead, cold rock. There's no profound realization, no sudden release of anxiety.
The text provides a deeply practical diagnostic checklist for this exact scenario. First, it notes that personal energy sensitivity varies wildly from person to person. Some individuals are naturally hyper-attuned to subtle somatic shifts, while others require much more time to develop that internal listening skill.
Second, the practitioner might simply be using a crystal that is not fundamentally aligned with their actual current psychological needs. They might think they need the calming energy of amethyst, when what they subconsciously need is the grounding, protective energy of black tourmaline.
Third, and this circles entirely back to our early discussion on maintenance, the crystal itself might be energetically stagnant because the practitioner neglected the cleansing ritual. Or the physical environment has become cluttered and chaotic again.
Or, most simply, the practitioner's mindset is just too severely distracted by a major life event to focus.
If we look at the mechanics of this, not feeling the energy is like trying to get a Wi-Fi signal in a lead-lined room. The signal might actually be broadcasting, but your internal receiver is completely blocked by stress, clutter, or the wrong password. Sometimes you just need to restart the router, which in this case means stopping the meditation, grounding yourself, cleansing the stone in salt or smoke, and trying again.
This raises an important question regarding modern psychology and our cultural expectations. We live in an ecosystem that practically guarantees instant gratification. If we have a question, we have the answer in seconds on a screen.
We want results now.
We bring that exact same expectation to mental health and spirituality. We expect to purchase a piece of rose quartz, sit on a cushion for 3 minutes, and feel a sudden cinematic jolt of lightning that instantaneously cures our deep-seated grief or chronic anxiety.
It doesn't work like that.
The source material emphatically stresses that meditation with crystals is not a pill you swallow for an instant cure. It is a practice of immense, enduring patience. Sitting with a stone and not feeling a sudden magical jolt of energy does not mean the practice is failing. It means the practitioner is in the slow, often frustrating but entirely necessary process of learning the incredibly subtle, quiet language of their own mind and physical body.
And while you are sitting there on that cushion, patiently trying to learn that subtle language, The distractions will inevitably come. The grocery list will pop into your head. The memory of an embarrassing conversation from 5 years ago will suddenly appear.
The text acknowledges that this is not a failure. It is totally normal human brain function. It offers a brilliant, highly effective strategy to handle it, called the labeling technique.
What is that?
The labeling technique is a cornerstone of deep mindfulness. When an intrusive thought or a sudden distraction pops up, the instinctive reaction is to get frustrated, to get mad at yourself for failing to meditate, which only creates more stress.
You end up fighting yourself.
Exactly. The technique teaches that instead of engaging with the thought or fighting it, you simply and briefly label it. If you suddenly start worrying about an upcoming deadline, you gently say to yourself in your mind, thinking. If your knee suddenly aches and you want to quit, you label it feeling.
And what does that actually accomplish mechanically?
That simple act of applying a single word label creates an immediate, profound mental distance between your consciousness and the distraction. You suddenly recognize that you are the silent observer of the thought, not the thought itself. You acknowledge its presence without getting entangled in its narrative.
That's powerful.
The guide strongly advocates for radical self-compassion here. It explicitly states that if you sit down and meditate, and can only manage to sit for 5 minutes before your mind completely derails into distraction, then you might celebrate those 5 minutes of effort. In this practice, regularity and consistency of showing up to the cushion are vastly more important and neurologically more effective than achieving a perfect hour-long state of unbroken enlightenment.
Wow. We have traversed an immense landscape today. We started at the literal microscopic foundation, examining the exact geological lattice of a quartz crystal, looking at how ancient atoms, repeating in perfect geometric symmetry over millions of years, create measurable, stable physical frequencies.
We move through the deep psychological necessity of maintenance, examining how elemental cleansing rituals utilizing smoke, running water, and salt serve to repair not just the physical stone, but to signal the human nervous system to transition into a state of rest.
We translated esoteric concepts into physiological reality. We mapped the human nervous system using the ancient chakra framework, understanding how connecting the physical placement of stones on the body directly facilitates deep somatic awareness, prompting the brain to systematically check in with every region of our emotional and physical anatomy.
We explore the cognitive scaffolding of advanced geometric crystal grids, utilizing the rhythmic engine of breathwork to keep the anxious mind occupied.
We walk the aisles of a comprehensive spiritual pharmacy, pairing the evolutionary psychology of color and texture with specific human struggles, from amethyst for severe stress to bright citrine for energetic abundance, rose quartz for heartbreak, and selenite for the pursuit of the divine.
And finally, we navigate the incredibly personal, messy, and sometimes profoundly frustrating process of sitting with ourselves, quieting the monkey mind with sensory layering, utilizing the labeling technique to deal with inevitable distractions, and learning the ultimate lesson of being patient with our own subjective internal experience.
It is a profound journey from the hard, objective earth to the deepest, most subjective corners of the human psyche. And as we conclude this exploration, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over, building entirely on the foundations we've discussed. We established early on, and we know this objectively as a scientific fact, that quartz is ubiquitously used in modern technology, specifically because its precise atomic lattice has the ability to reliably regulate electrical frequencies. That is not magic, that is engineering. And we also know, objectively as a biological fact, that the human brain and the entire human nervous system operate entirely on complex bioelectrical impulses and frequencies.
Every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every memory you recall is, at its core, an electrical signal moving through a biological grid.
Exactly. So while mainstream science currently views crystal healing strictly through the lens of psychology and metaphysical placebo, it begs a fascinating question. As our medical instruments for measuring incredibly subtle human bioelectricity become exponentially more advanced in the coming decades, what completely undiscovered mechanisms might future science reveal about how these ancient frequency-regulating geological structures actually interact with the human electrical field?
That is a staggering thought to end on. It completely shifts the perspective. We go from looking at the human body like an X-ray of a broken bone, expecting a clean, simple, binary answer, to staring into the immensely complex, muddy, beautiful waters of bioelectricity, resonance, and human consciousness.
The rocks in the ground might have been speaking a subtle electrical language this entire time, and we as a species are just now trying to sit quietly enough to learn the vocabulary. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Whether you are coming to the subject looking for an appreciation of a geological marvel or seeking a deeply personal tool for profound self-discovery, we highly encourage you to pick up a stone, feel its weight in your hand, take a long, deep breath, and see exactly what you discover. Until next time.